Today is Saturday, July 2nd, 2022. Thought we'd do a very quick update of the garden today just to show the progress and see where we're at. We just had a pretty good rain last night, so a lot of the plants are falling over from the weight of the rain, especially the borage. It looks like it's flopped over, even being staked. It's pulled away from the stake, so we've got quite a mess here. It really is time for me to start doing some pruning and trimming this up. Last video we talked about pulling out the beans and doing a succession planting, and we can see there that some are coming up. Looks like we didn't have perfect germination, but we'll go in and fill in the gaps there with our beans. I think we went back in with jade beans. These were originally top crop beans, but I prefer the jade, so we're going back in with jade. Of course, our door tomato plants are doing well, except I mentioned on the last video about the my arch nemesis, the tomato hornworm. I had one in one day do all this damage. I was out of town, and it's just absolutely amazing how they can come in and strip the top of a tomato plant out. But I did find this one, and it is no longer a pest. But the dwarf tomato plants are doing really well. A lot of foliage, a lot of blooms, and there are some tomatoes on there. Some of them are just sort of hidden, but they are forming tomatoes now. So that's really good. We got a late start on the tomatoes this year because we just kept having cold snaps, and that delayed getting those in the ground. The previous year, we got the tomatoes in extremely early. We were actually eating tomatoes in May, but this time we're into July and just now getting a few of the sun gold cherry tomatoes, and that's the only ones that have gotten ripe, but it won't be much longer. Of course, we have our new to me eggplant, and you can see we're starting to form some eggplants there, so that's great. That'll be fun to get to try those for the first time. I have had eggplant before, but never any that I've grown myself. The anise hyssop finally started blooming, and boy, the pollinators sure love that. So I'm glad we grew that. We'll probably grow that again next year. Here you can see our imperial broccoli has been forming heads. We've harvested quite a few of those heads. So far, I haven't seen any side shoots develop. I'm not sure if this particular variety produces side shoots. I know some do. I'm pretty sure Green Magic does. We've planted those in the past, but the broccoli's been really good. Our Yaya Carrots continue to produce. These are the ones we originally planted in spring, and we're just pulling them and eating them as needed. But they've done very well. They're now pushing out of the dirt. Even in this jungle, they're still producing okay. You can see our cucumbers are now starting to get a little diseased and getting some insect damage, but they are still producing, but we've already planted a succession planting of those as well. Our Corno de Toro peppers have done well. We've had a few of those already. But I wanted to show you this. This is my arch nemesis. This is the tomato hornworm. And he looks like he's had quite a few things to eat, so he's pretty large. So we'll be taking care of him. But these guys, it's amazing the amount of damage they can do in a short period of time. Our original jade beans are still producing a little, but I think we'll probably pull these out. We may let one more crop of beans produce, and then these will come out, and we'll get some more planted in there. If we take a look at our tomato plant here, you can see the signs of the tomato hornworm, or it could be a tobacco hornworm. They're almost the same thing. But you can see there's a dropping, and then you can see up here we have some damage where they're eating the tomato plant. Here's more damage. And then sometimes when they're very small, you'll see damage such as this. If you can find them at that stage, it's great because there'll be a tiny worm. But once they get to this stage, they're probably getting close to the size of your pinky finger. And you can see they're eating where the blossoms are. So that means there won't be any tomatoes there. So they're very destructive. You can use BT, which is of course a naturally occurring bacteria that's harmless to humans. We can eat it, but it does cause the caterpillars or worms to die. I've typically not used BT on my tomato plants, but I may look into doing that in the future because they've really become a problem. You can hear in the background one of my favorite birds. It's the wood thrush. Has a beautiful call. This is what it looks like when lettuce bolts. So all this will need to be pulled out, and we'll replace that. Here are our Indeterminate tomatoes. This is the sun gold in the middle, and then the two experimental ones from the University of Florida. You can see we're starting to get some of the sun golds ripening. Also have quite a few of the green tomatoes there from the University of Florida, the Garden Treasure and the Garden Gem. They're now 8 feet tall. The crookneck squash are continuing to produce heavily. The patty pan as well. Peppers are producing heavily now. Chives are still going. Really need to clean up the herb bed. Dwarf tomatoes should be coming in very soon. Eggplant starting to come in, but wow, it is a jungle and lots of things need to be pulled and tidied up. So far so good. We've had a lot of harvest this year out of this small garden plot. If we walk over here beyond the fence, we can see our corn patch, and this is the Argent sweet corn, and in front of that of course is our okra. We have jambalaya and Jing orange. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe Ying orange, but it's J-I-N-G. It's a reddish looking okra. But it should just be now a few more days and we'll be pulling the corn, the sweet corn, probably around July 5th. We may sneak a year or two early, and hopefully we don't have raccoons get in or squirrels or deer and damage the sweet corn. I'm using what they call a 3D fence here. It's hard to even see, but there is a outer band of fencing made with fishing line that's almost invisible. And then there's an inner band that's a little bit taller that has 4 rows of line strung. And that's supposed to confuse deer. Like they bump the invisible one, it's supposed to kind of spook them. I've also coated the fishing line and the rods with Irish Spring soap. I've heard deer don't like that. Who knows? I don't know if that really works or not, but I'm trying it. Here you can maybe see the fishing line a little bit better. So it's connected to one of those fiberglass rods used for kind of throwing up a temporary electric fence. You can get those for just a couple dollars at places like Tractor Supply. And then there's an outer band. It's a little harder to see, but you can see there's fishing line run there. I may not have mine quite spaced far enough apart. The idea is you put a little bit of spacing between the outer and the inner fencing, and deer have poor depth perception, and it's supposed to sort of confuse them. Of course, we still have our cushaws and our melons doing okay. Here's a cushaw. It's coming along pretty good there. And then right beside it is one of our melons. Got quite a few of those coming along there. Got one really large one here. Hopefully he'll be ready pretty soon. And of course we also have our watermelon. I believe this is Jubilee. But it produces a really large watermelon. Last year we had one that was over 40 pounds. But there are quite a few hiding back in there. This is our new plot that we started this year. So we'll continue to improve the soil here. And we're going to push the woods back a little further there to get more light. Our Chicago hardy fig tree is coming along here. I've got quite a few of the figs bagged up here in organza bags to try to keep the insects and the birds away. So far, so good with that. Not had any from the Chicago hardy, but I did have a Des Tres Espèces fig, and I've had several figs off of that so far. So that's been cool. And those were first year fig trees, started December 30th as cuttings. So it's pretty amazing to already be getting figs. This Chicago hardy is a second year tree. I had temporarily put a Cotodon Blanc here, and this one is beginning to form, but just barely. Here is the Des Tres Espèces, which means something like of three harvest. I guess where it's natively grown in Spain, it can produce up to 3 times. It produces a breva crop, and then 2 main crops. But you can see this one's about ready. They're very, well, that one's not quite soft. The other ones did not turn fully purple, but they got very, very soft. So I went ahead and picked those. And I actually prefer them a little less than perfectly ripe. The texture's a little better, and they don't get particularly super sweet. They don't have an intense berry flavor. So I like them just picked just a tad early. I did get the drip irrigation hooked up temporarily for these, so we can get these on automatic watering. I was watering all of these by hand. The way this is set up is I have a 3/4 inch main line here, and connected to that is a large barb fitting that comes off with a 1/2 inch line, and then coming off each of the 1/2 inch lines I have a 1/4 inch feeder line that's connected to a 1/4 inch drip emitter line, and I put 5 drip emitters in each pot, and this is just sort of homemade system. And I'll show you that. So what we have here is just the 1/4 inch drip emitter line. We have one goof plug in the end, and then we also have it connected to a right angle coupling, and that's what connects to the feeder line. And then there's 5 of the drip emitters, and these are, I think, 0.8 gallons. So 5 of them produces 4 gallons in an hour. So if you leave this on about 10 minutes, you've very thoroughly watered your fig plant and done so very evenly in the pot. And then we just use 1 pin to hold. And the nice thing about this is if you ever need to remove it, you can just take this 1 pin up and just pull it right off the tree. You don't have to cut anything. Here's one of the rings, just to show you how it looks when it's not on the fig tree. So it's just the length of the drip emitter line. These are spaced every 6 inches. Each one produces 0.8 gallons per minute, so 5 equals 4 gallons per hour. So you can see I have this one in the pan. so you can get an idea how much water it produces. So this one's only been on for a couple minutes. You can see we have a good bit of water in the pan. So I usually let this run about 8 minutes, and that waters all the fig trees. Well, it used to take a good bit of time in the morning. Now we just have on a timer, and it's all automatic. So quite a few fig plants here, and those are the last few that need to be up potted, and that'll be it for the season. Happy Independence Day. Hope you all have a good 4th.